Hello everyone, I'm trapped in a locker, so let's complete a challenge today. So we're doing all dart monkeys with only the hero Gwendolyn to beat BTD6. On screen now you'll see the 4 rules for the challenge at hand, and let's just dive right into my strategy here. So you can see by the placement of the dart monkeys I have everything kind of spread out a little bit. The one on the farthest right is actually going to be the Plasma Monkey fan club. The one down towards the middle bottom will be the Ultra Juggernaut, and the one at the very corner will be the Crossbow Master. I chose these because the Crossbow Master is going to basically carry us through the mid game, and the Ultra Juggernaut gets a very good bounce angle right here, as you'll see later. Gwendolyn I picked because she has a very good ability to buff everything with fire, which will come in handy later on when I'm up against all the DDTs in the late 90 rounds. And with all that said, I will return as soon as we get Gwendolyn.
We have ignition.
Alright, so around 11 Gwendolyn, that's not a bad start. I messed up with the placement of her though. I meant to put her next to the Crossbow Master, but for some reason I thought I was still trying to use Etienne, and that's usually the spot where I put Etienne during these kinds of challenges. Anyone who's wondering, I chose not to use Etienne because I kept getting stuck on round 98 with all of my abilities on cooldown. So I figured Gwendolyn would be a much safer bet because of her Firestorm level 10 ability. But like I said, I messed up by placing her there, so we'll just have to live with it, I guess. Alright, and here we have our first tier 3, the Spike-a-Pult. So I'm going with picking the Juggernaut to be our first one because I want some extra lead popping outside of Gwendolyn, and trying to rely on her to carry us to the point where we get the Crossbow Master is kind of not a good idea. So having an extra Juggernaut to just help with all the leads coming through would be a much better idea. I am going to work on trying to get all the tier 3s before we get to the Moab, so I can at least handle that a little bit better. And if I remember correctly, I get the tier 4 Sharpshooter as well, but we'll see.
Yes. Awesome.
Alright, there's our second tier 3 with the crossbow. So as you can see from where I placed the crossbow, I tried to get it enough so that it would be shooting up a straight line as often as possible, simply because that is the best way to have the crossbow master aiming. You'll see later on, if anyone is watching this who doesn't play BTD6, he benefits greatly from having straight lines to shoot the arrows down due to his massive crit damage. And over here, we're going to start working on getting ourselves the triple darts, which is another really good tier 3. Honestly, I think the only tier 3 for the dart monkey that isn't very good is the Spike-a-Pult. But even then, once you get to the Juggernaut on a good map, it's pretty decent. So with all that said, I'm going to jump back in at round 40 so I can talk when we are beating the Moab and explain the rest of my plan.
Moab, burn it.
Alright, so here's the Moab, and with the use of the Gwen level 3 ability, it's pretty much done for. So up until this point, we've been having it pretty easy. After this, the next hard round is actually going to be 59, where we need to make sure we have camo lead detection, and that is why I chose the bottom cross path for the Juggernaut, and not the middle cross path for the attack speed boost. Our main goal right now is to get the Crossbow Master to carry us through the mid game, so we can start saving up money to get the Plasma Monkey Fan Club, and with all that out of the way, I will jump back in later on to explain everything as I go. Alright, so I got the Ultra Juggernaut first because as you could see there, we were starting to slip a little bit with some of the balloons. They were getting pretty far along the track, and the Ultra Juggernaut can help with that with its massive bouncing attack. And it's also not exactly an expensive tier 5, it's actually surprisingly cheap. It's just not super good unless you know how to use it. That's why I put it there where it can hit right through that log and get a good bounce off with all of the other little mini juggernauts.
Incinerated.
Alright, and we got a round 59 Crossbow Master. This thing is really good. It's going to carry us through the mid
BFB,
game,
burn it.
at least until I think round 70, or maybe even past round 70, because having it shoot down a straight line with a massive crit damage and shooting a lot of crits at once, it's a really solid tower and nothing gets past it too much. It'll actually handle round 63, which is the only other really difficult round for a while, by itself, more or less. And I think overall it's probably my favorite tier 5 of the Dart Monkeys, simply because I think it's really cool. And it is really strong, because as you can see here, like I said, it is handling round 63 almost solo, with the Ultra Juggernaut acting as a sort of cleanup option. With that being said, I'll jump back in later on when we get the Plasma Monkey fan club.
Yeah? RNG! Burn it! Yeah? Nice! Incinerated! Incinerated!
Alright, so we finally got the Plasma Monkey fan club, and now I'm just going to start building the small army for it. Full disclosure, I do not like this tower at all. I think the fact that it relies on having a bunch of other towers around it to do a lot of damage is kind of
Incinerated!
bad. I don't like the fact that it relies on an ability for most of its power. It's not a great tier 5, and it costs way too much. As you can see there, it was almost, what, like 40 or 50 rounds
Awesome!
almost until I was able to actually get it from getting the crossbow master. It just was it's not a very good tier 5, but it does pack a punch when you actually get all of the plasma monkeys around it. The problem is it only works for tier 3 dart monkeys, so you have to rely on triple darts. And outside of that, I'm just going to build up the army for it, and I will come back later to explain some of my plans for a little bit of the harder rounds, like when the DDTs come in. Alright, so next up is round 90, our first round with DDTs. As you see, I turned off auto start because I knew the 90s were going to be a bit of a problem with the Dart Monkeys. And I wasn't really expecting the Plasma Monkey fan club to just delete DDTs like that. It's actually surprisingly good at it, but that's kind of all it's really useful for is just big damage at once. The ability I don't even think lasts all that long. Um, I do make a lot of mistakes at this point in the video though. I kind of misuse abilities at certain points. I should have optimized this a little bit better. I probably wouldn't have died so much. Like right there, I just panic used the Plasma Monkey fan club for no reason because I was worried I was going to die. And it just, I make a lot of mistakes in this part and it's kind of sad to watch.
Incinerated. COMG. Burn it. Stop them.
And there is our first death of the run.
Hey. Moab. Burn it. Bloons incinerated. COMG. Burn it. Fireball. It's all on fire now. Nice.
So as you guys just saw, I was really trying to get through that round without using the Plasma Monkey fan club ability
DDT.
because of this DDT rush right here. And I needed the Plasma Monkeys to handle that because DDTs kind of are way too fast for the Crossbow Master, and the Ultra Juggernaut doesn't have any real way to handle them either. So I was desperately trying to find a way to beat that round without wasting that ability.
COMG. Burn it. Bloons incinerated.
So as you just saw, I'm gonna buy a few backup Super Monkey fan clubs for a little bit of extra DPS. Um, it's not a horrible idea. It is way too expensive for what it does, though. Uh, it's actually cheaper just to get 10 Super Monkeys than to buy a Super Monkey fan club and then get a bunch of little monkeys around it. So it's more just for some backup because I need something to help when the Plasma Monkey fan club uh, isn't ready.
Fireball.
Especially given round 95 is coming up, and round 95 is an extremely painful round to go through. It has a lot of DDTs, Moabs, and camos. So, yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Moab. Burn it. Bloons incinerated.
That round's actually a lot harder than I made it look right there. Um, I messed up on buying this Spike-a-Pult. I meant to buy the bottom path, but it doesn't really matter. Ultimately, I lose this round anyway. Spoiler warning. Um, Outside of that, I don't think there's really much else I can do because the Dart Monkey doesn't have a lot of good tier 4s outside of maybe like Sharpshooter. But even then, one of the Dart Monkey's biggest problems is that it lacks a severe amount of lead popping. And where we're at right now, we kind of need more lead popping for the DDTs. And this round winds up being a real pain because I keep
BFB,
misusing abilities like you just saw there
burn,
and dying as a result. I think I
incinerated.
spend a solid 3 or 4 deaths on this one. I'm not 100% sure I remember that right, but it's a very dicey round and extremely difficult for the Dart Monkeys because I don't really have a lot of good tier 4s to start spamming.
Fireball, they're leaking. BFB, Moab, burn, incinerated. The OMG, burn, stop them. BFB, Moab, burn, incinerated. The OMG, burn. It's all on fire now. Fireball,
As you can see, that was a pretty close round, and we still almost lost, even when we just managed to pull back a little bit. So here I have no real idea of what to do, so I'm just going to start spamming a few tier 4s around, some juggernauts, a couple sharpshooters, and I'm going to put another triple dart right there so I have another super monkey pretty close to where it can hit towards the back of the track. But at this point, there's really nothing else I can do except just spam a few pretty decent tier 4s, and that's kind of just all I do.
fired up. Incinerated.
Alright, and here we have round 98. So the next 3 rounds are actually pretty dicey, round 98, 99, and 100, because of 98 being a massively packed row of DDTs and ZOMGs, and 99 having the fortified DDTs. It is a very tight round and doesn't offer you a lot of mistakes, and you have to be very careful with your ability usage. As you can see right there, even with the Plasmonkey Fan Club, I just barely managed to beat all those DDTs, and I still have a few BFBs to take care of. So I just panic bought a couple extra Juggernauts right there for the DDTs because I had never tried the Plasma Monkey Fan Club on fortified DDTs and didn't realize it was going to be very good.
BAC,
So
gonna need
that's the
that
run
gas.
because this is pretty much I don't have any difficulty with the bad. And if I were to optimize this a little bit better, like I said, I would put Gwendolyn next to the Crossbow Master and manage a few of the abilities a little bit better because I was not very good at that with this run. And with all that said, I hope you guys enjoyed. The next one I will be doing is the Boomerang, and after that I'll be moving on to the Bomb Shooter. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed, and would be happy if you come back and watch those videos later.